Dajahao, hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel. And today I am continuing my read along for ErHa. If I tell you, I almost cried right before this live. Oh my word. I was editing, or like, not even editing, I had edited the, like, the last episode of Devil Judge's reaction, and then I, like, just exited things because I realized, okay, like something's glitching, restarted my computer, came back and exported Devil Judge, and then I didn't notice that for some weird reason the audio that had been completely in sync and everything had been fine had unsynced after restarting. And because of that, like, it exported, I uploaded it, and then when I was clicking through things to like make sure everything was fine before uploading it, it it was not fine. And yeah, so I won't be uploading that tonight. I was planning on like having it premiere at like 7ish, so immediately after the live, and it did not go as planned. So I unfortunately think I'm gonna be having to take this week off for the most part. Like, I'm gonna release that tomorrow maybe, and then I have a collab part 1 that's will be going up after that releases. Um, but yeah, I thought I could like keep up, and I've been barely holding on to keeping up, and this just was the final straw. So anyway, with info dumping out of the way, sorry about that. Hi, I hope everyone is okay. I hope the audio is good. If not, that's probably better, so you didn't hear me going off just now. So yeah, sorry if I seem a little frazzled. That is why. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that is why I might seem slightly all over the place. But we're hoping that the wonderful healing power of Danmei will save me in this time of strife. So yeah. Anyway, I do want to quickly see. So we were on page 384, chapter 37. For anyone who wants to read along, please also just let me know how the audio is, if it's okay. But yeah, I have water here with me. There should be coffee arriving soon, maybe. I don't know. We shall see. And yeah, I think we can basically get started because I was a little bit late in getting started. I'm so sorry. As I mentioned, just chaos. Absolute chaos, which is always great and wonderful. Okay. Now that I am more collected, let us get started. Okay, chapter 37. This venerable one meets a god. Ooh. Cold moonlight upon frosty snow, frozen mountains embracing an icy lake. Here lie heights insurmountable. Here lies the edge of the world. Shumeng, hands clad in deerskin gloves, wiped snow off of the large boulder and read the cinnabar inscription upon it out loud. Inscription upon it out loud. Hi, how are you guys? He looked back gleefully. Shizun, we're here. It snowed on Dawning Peak all year round. At the moment, a majestic moon hung full in the sky, and it cast a crisp, shimmering glow over the icy lake as the frigid air blew bleak and chilly. Jincheng Lake was frozen over. No snow lay upon it, and its surface was pearlescent beneath the heavenly expanse of the starry skies. It spread across the horizon, the reflection of stars glittering within it as if they'd come down from the heavens above, breathtakingly beautiful. The pristine, snowy landscape really did leave them feeling like they had arrived at the very edge of the world. The group reached the edge of the lake. The surface was mirror smooth and shimmering with sublime otherworldly light. A stone embankment stretched out over the lake towards its center, and next to it stood a frost-covered stone tablet. Intersecting patterns spread over the stone, and the words, "The path forward is difficult," was written upon the stark, powerful calligraphy. Was written on with stark, powerful calligraphy. After thousands of years, the words were still clear. It seemed like they were often repainted. Chuaning stopped in front of the stone embankment. "Only one person at a time can go to the lake to seek a weapon. Which of you will go first?" Shumeng could hardly contain himself before blurting out, "Shizun, I'll go first." Chuaning looked at him, thought it over, and shook his head. "You're too rash. I don't think that's a good idea." At this, Shumei, who'd been standing by the side, laughed a little. "Shizun, how about I go in first, since I probably won't be able to break through the ice anyway." That's reasonable. Shumei walked along the stone embankment, which was wide enough for only a single person at a time, and slowly made his way to the end. Following procedure, he produced a ball of spiritual ice. His spiritual energy traveled ceaselessly down along the lake surface, the glittering white light of his power flickering into the distance. Okay, hold up. Before we get any further into this, I have a crazy theory that I feel the need to share, because either it will entertain you guys, because it's gonna turn out to be so completely far-fetched, or who knows. Anyway, okay, so here's the theory. I worried last time about whether or not there was the slight chance that this encouragement from Moran would lead to Shumei going with them, and then because of that, him maybe being able to summon a creature and it completely changing the trajectory of their future, and he completely kind of destroying his ability to predict the future, or anticipate the future, should I rather say. What if it's so insane, it's like, I don't know if I even should say it, but what if Shumei ends up now summoning a weapon that for some reason completely changes the way that he approaches life, and because of that he maybe becomes like power hungry, and he becomes the feared person that Moran used to be, in a sense, like he becomes the new villain. And not only does Moran now have to grapple with the realization that he caused the metaphorical death of, well, there was the physical death of the person that he loved before, but he in this timeline caused the metaphorical death of the person that he loved, and then also the person that he created because of his encouragements caused the death of the new person who he loves, aka Chuaning. Like, I could just see the potentials for symbolism in this, which is why my brain went there, even though it seems completely far-fetched. Sorry, I think I just created an entire AU all my own. Sorry about that. Let us continue. Okay. Where was I? Moran stood from afar and held his breath, hands unconsciously clenching into fists. But no matter how long Shimei tried, the ice didn't budge a moot. He forced a smile as he gave up and walked back. Shizun, my apologies, he said to Chuaning. No matter. Try again after cultivating a few more years. Moran sighed a little, somehow more disappointed than either of them. But he still went to comfort Shimei. It's fine. There will be more opportunities. I'll come with you next time you try. Enough with the chit-chat, said Chuaning. Step up. It's your turn now. In Moran's previous lifetime, he had gone to seek his holy weapon during the most carefree days of his youth, and he'd had nothing but boundless enthusiasm at the prospect. But in this lifetime, it was nothing more than a pickup. He knew what awaited him, and he had none of that prior anxiety or eagerness. He did, however, have something of a warm feeling, the anticipation of a reunion with an old friend. Moran walked along the stone embankment and knelt before the icy lake. Bending down, he pressed his palm against the ice. He closed his eyes. His scabbardless long blade, that sinful, vicious blade, had been his constant companion, had seen all the sights of the world at his side, had tasted all the blood of the mortal realm as he had. Moran opened his eyes and whispered to the surface of the lake, Bugwe, I'm here. As if sensing the call of its destined master, an enormous black sword swiftly appeared under the frozen sheet in Cheng Lake. The shadow gathered under the lake, becoming more and more clear and more vivid. I'm so sorry, the reason why I laughed was I could just imagine, like, whichever magical creature had been its, like, guardian up until this point being so affronted about the fact that this mortal just, well, not quite mortal, but this cultivator just summoned this blade without the guardian's consent. Or magical creature's consent, I should probably rather say. In a sudden cacophony, what the hell was I about to say? In a sudden cacophony, thousands of feet of ice shattered, and Moran heard Shumeng's distant sound of alarm from the shore. The ice is gone! The lake water surged up, waves crashing. A massive turquoise black dragon breached, each scale on its body nearly 7 feet wide. In an instant, Jincheng Lake's... Okay, that's a typo. It says Jincheng Lakes became, but I'm assuming it's supposed to be Jincheng Lake became a churning mass of waves, and a heavy fog rolled over them. The dragon glinted brilliantly under the moonlight as breath spouted from its nostrils. At the same time, an ancient barrier fell over the edge of the lake, separating Moran from his peers and Chuaning. Within the barrier, human and dragon regarded each other. This artwork is so beautiful. Okay, so its guardian definitely, like, seems to be consenting to the taking of the sword. But look at this. It is so beautiful. I really hope I'm, like, doing it justice by holding it up right. But that is gorgeous. And I love that we're kind of aware of what the coloring, I'm assuming, is supposed to be more or less something like this. Maybe? Though these seem to be like wolves or something. Maybe not quite the same coloring, but I'm just imagining it to be more or less of the same kind of coloring. Moran squinted his eyes and raised his head, peering up through the misty spray at the dragon. The dragon held its jaw at a pitch-black blade with no scabbard. Though time-worn and plain, the blade was sharp, able to slice with ease through steel and gold alike. The dragon shrunk the blade to a size that a human could wield, and slowly lowered its radiant, vibrant, serpentine body to the ground to place the blade in front of Moran. However, it didn't lift its head right away. Instead, it turned its golden eyes, each as large as and twice the height of a full-grown man. Damn, to stare at Moran. The dragon's eyes were like two great bronze mirrors, and Moran's reflection shone clearly within them. Moran stood still with bated breath, waiting for it to speak. If nothing had changed, he would only be asked to retrieve a plum blossom from the foot of the mountain and bring it back. Ultimately, because the old dragon sought only peace and elegance, he'd been let off easy. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Hi! And welcome! I'm glad you could catch this live. Who could have predicted that, after waiting for so long, this dragon wouldn't do as it had in their previous lifetime and so easily yield Moran's weapon? The dragon's beard fluttered as it narrowed its enormous golden eyes. Then it lifted its front claw to write 2 words in the snow before Moran. Mortal one? Moran was taken aback. He clearly remembered that in his previous lifetime, the dragon had been able to speak. Why, in this life, was it mute? Ooh! Yeah, that is weird. After writing those 2 words, the mute dragon promptly wiped the writing away with its scaled claw to write another sentence. No, a mortal energy. Then, are you a divine being? Moran was speechless. Yeah, because I'm wondering if he can still speak but is choosing not to speak because he wants this conversation to be private and he's testing Moran's power and limits. The old dragon thought for a moment, then swiped its claw once more and wrote, "Not a divine being. There is an evil energy in you. Then, are you a kind of demon?" What kind of nonsense is this? Moran yelled in his head. This venerable one was just reborn. What's there to think about? Just hand over the venerable one's blade already. He sounds so entitled. I love it. The old dragon seemed to sense his impatience and suddenly lifted its scaly claws to trap the blade beneath its foot. With one foot on the blade, it used the other to wipe away its writings and continued on another patch of snow. No need to take offense. I perceive 2 other shadows in your body. I've never seen anything like this in my life. So tell me, are you a human or a ghost? Divine or demonic? Moran raised an eyebrow. I'm human, of course. Is that something that even needs to be said? Well, a human who's died once before, he thought. The old dragon paused for a moment, then wrote, "One human soul split like so. Such a thing has truly never been seen before. It is unheard of." As Moran watched the dragon sway sluggishly back and forth in a puzzled and almost slow-witted manner, he couldn't help but find it funny. What's so strange about it? Another Qianbei, what'll it take... Anyway, Qianbei, what'll it take for you to give me this blade of yours? The old dragon sized him up for a while and wrote, "Stand there and don't move. Let me use a technique to peer into your soul, and then I'll give the blade to you. How about that?" Moran hadn't expected to receive such a request. Under that profound stare, he started to feel a little hesitant. He wondered whether this old thing could really see into his past life. What would happen if it could? But Bugui was right in front of him. This blade was powerful and unusually strong for a holy weapon. If he refused it now, he would never have a second chance to get his hands on it. After hesitating for a moment, Moran looked up. "That's fine and all, but Qianbei, will you give me the blade no matter what you see inside of me?" The old dragon drew on the ground. "These are the terms. I will naturally follow through on my words. No matter whether I am good or evil no matter whether I was good or evil in the past." The old dragon paused for a moment, then wrote, "Even if you were evil in the past, I will not stop you. I can only hope that you will pursue goodness in the future. Moran clasped his hands together and smiled. All right, if Chenbei says so, I don't have any objections. Please examine me all you like, Chenbei. The old dragon lifted itself slightly. Its luminescent serpentine body bowed. It blew a breath from its nostrils, and its eyes emitted a bright red glow. Moran raised his head and realized that the red glow was, in fact, a hazy mist. As the blood-red mist thickened, it gradually concealed his reflection in the dragon's eyes. After a few moments, the fog slowly dissipated, revealing Moran's image once more. But this time, Moran was astounded to find that his reflection in the dragon's eyes was not alone. Faintly visible behind him were two additional hazy, indistinct shadows, one to his left, one to his right. Moran whipped around in shock, but behind them there was only emptiness and the unceasing falling snow. Where had the other figures come from? As he turned back again, he saw the figures in the dragon's eyes become clearer and clearer, like something submerged in water, slowly rising to the surface. Moran kept and to his surprise realized that the two silhouettes were extremely familiar, though their eyes were closed. He couldn't stop himself from taking a step forward. All at once, the two figures opened their eyes. Shimei! Chuaning? He never would have expected them. Stunned, Moran stumbled and staggered backwards, stuttering so hard that he couldn't form a single sentence. How is this? The three people in the old dragon's eyes stood quietly, expressions placid and void of emotion. They only stared into the distance. Moran was stupefied. After a moment, the blood-red fog rose again, and the figures in the dragon's eyes blurred until they finally disappeared together. The only dragon... What did I just read? I'm so sorry. My brain just glitched, it seems. The old dragon blew a huff from its nose and shook out its body. Then it wrote quickly, I cannot make sense of it. I have seen much in my lifetime, but I have never seen a person's soul with the imprints of two others upon it. Certainly, it is utterly perplexing. My soul has their imprints on it? Yes. After writing that one word, the old dragon paused for a moment before continuing. I do not know what you could have possibly endured. How deep must an obsession run for another person to be enmeshed so inextricably into one's own soul? As Moran stared at the messy lines in the snow, his face began to grow red, as if he choked on something. His obsession with Shimei ran so far down in his bones that learning that Shimei was imprinted upon his soul and that this dragon could also see him when he looked at Moran didn't faze him much at all. But let me guess, Chuaning does. But what the hell was up with Chuaning also being there? What kind of heartfelt obsession did he have towards Chuaning? Did extreme hatred count as an obsession intense enough to entangle one's soul? Jincheng Lake cleaved apart as if it sliced into half by a sword. Wait, what? Hold on, sorry, I skipped a paragraph. This human and dragon were so immersed in contemplation that neither noticed at the surface of Jincheng Lake starting to ripple unnaturally. When the water rushed up and the waves broke through, it was too late. Jincheng Lake cleaved apart as if it sliced in half by a sword. The water on both sides rushed up towards the sky until they towered so high they blocked out all other sights. The two tightly ordered herds of beasts rushed out from beneath the waves. They had the bodies of leopards and the heads of oxen. and though they weren't as large as the old dragon, the horns on their heads shone with a cold light, and every last claw was sharp and menacing. Although hundreds of them gathered, the old dragon displayed no fear. It only gazed at them with his golden eyes. "What's happening?" Moran asked. The old dragon paused, then wrote, "The exalted Gochen." The instant Moran read the 3 words, he felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. Gochen the Exalted was the god of weaponry, lord of all weapons in the world. The founding god had created the first sword in existence to aid Fushi in laying waste to his demonic enemies. What? Okay, let me just take a sip of water because I seem to be struggling suddenly with forming words, which is great when you're trying to read. Cows? The thought was too horrifying for Moran to accept. As he stared blankly, uncomprehendingly, he heard the sound of a shun coming from far away. What is a shun? Should I know? The shun was an okay, thank you. The shun was an ancient instrument. Not many people of the present age knew how to play it. As the sound came closer, the ruckus herd of beasts slowly stilled and bent their forelegs one by one until they knelt in 2 rows. A man, clad in splendid robes and carrying a long sword, rode atop a chilin through the path made by the beasts. This man had a handsome face with fine features and a pleasant disposition. He stood in the wind, his robes billowing as the snow fell on him, the clay shun in his hands glossy and dark. His fingers lay lightly over the holes as he held it to his lips to play. When the music finished on a soft note, the hundreds of oxen-like beasts suddenly dissolved into water, revealing that they had only been conjurations. I've never heard that word, but I can kind of infer what it means. The man put down the clay shun, ran his eyes over Moran for a moment, and gently smiled. What a truly strange person, the likes of which only one might never encounter in millennia. No wonder you piqued Wang Ye's interest. I am Guchen, the Exalted, who lives within Jinchen Lake. All the weapons in this lake were forged by my own hands. They are but objects of little consequence. Please excuse my humble works. That is so humbly put that I kind of struggle to believe that he's genuinely meaning it humbly. But yeah. Even though the old dragon had written the name, and this man was saying it himself as well, Moran couldn't believe it. His face paled. "You're Guchen the Exalted?" The man smiled patiently. "Yes, I am he." Moran was on the verge of choking. "God of 1,000 weapons? That guy?" "Correct." Guchen the Exalted raised his brows delicately, laughter in his eyes. The later generations do seem to call me that. How embarrassing! I only grind out a few paltry swords and tie a few little whips when I'm bored, yet people idolize me so. I can't figure out if he genuinely is being humble or if he is, like, just pretending. Moran had no words. Strong people acting humbly was the most grating thing in the world. Chuaning had matter-of-factly said, "I have 3 holy weapons," but this exalted Guchen was even more irritating. He actually went around calling the weapons he created paltry swords and little whips. Why didn't he just go ahead and call Emperor Fuxin little old man while he was at it? Moran took a while to process this and finally said, Then shouldn't you have been in the heavenly realm? How could you be in this lake? I like to fight and spar, so I often end up disturbing the Heavenly Emperor's peace and quiet. After being on the receiving end of his stink eye, I figured I might as well just descend. Then, how long have you been here? Moran asked dumbfounded. Gretchen the Exalted thought it over before smiling. Not too long, only a few 100 years. Hi, please don't spam the chat with too many emoticons. It can kind of like clog up the chat a little bit. Oh, only a few 100 years? A few 100 years, Moran repeated, then laughed dryly. Doesn't the exalted god think that's a bit long? Gretchen the Exalted's look was placid as he smiled. He nonchalantly waved his sleeves. It's not that long. Besides, forging a sword for the Heavenly Emperor used up much of my spiritual power. Furthermore, staying in a realm as abundantly opulent as heaven gets rather boring. It's much better down here. Although Moran was extremely curious to learn more about this legendary god of weaponry, it wasn't really his place to keep prodding about personal affairs. He thought about it and decided there were more important matters at hand. I love it. Okay, hold on. Let me just finish this. So instead he said, Exalted Elder, you didn't just come out to see me today just because you thought my soul was special, right? Why not? Your spiritual power is rare. The sort one hardly ever comes across. Gretchen the Exalted smiled. I worry that if I give you the blade, it would be wasted potential. So you would rather give him something more extraordinary or less extraordinary? I'm not sure. But also, can I just appreciate the fact that Moran's like, yes, there's this god in front of me, but I think there might be more important things to worry about than the fact that there's a god in front of me and I have so many questions. It's just Moran in a nutshell, isn't it? It's not too bad, Moran replied. The blade seemed like it would suit me. I thought so at first too, Gretchen the Exalted continued, still smiling. But upon closer examination, I found that this isn't the case. You have a rare talent, so you piqued my interest. I came here today because I wanted to invite you to the bottom of the lake to chat. I would like to see which among those millions of blades would suit you best. Moran was speechless. This was no small matter in and of itself. Even though Taishin Jin had experienced a whole array of things in his life, this made him choke. The god of thousand weapons was actually inviting him to pick one of those weapons? Gretchen the Exalted took Moran's silence to mean he was reluctant to go due to fear. There's no need to worry. Even though many monsters await under the waters, they all answer to me. I guarantee they will not harm you. Wang Ye will testify to this. The old dragon said nothing, but slowly bowed at his side. When Moran realized that he really was being given a genuine invitation, his heart couldn't help but jolt. Then, if I go, would the exalted god grant me a request? Ooh. Is he gonna ask for Shimei to also be given a weapon, or is he gonna ask for Chuaning to accompany him, or Shimei to accompany him? I could see him doing either of those three things. Not all though, because obviously he wouldn't request more than one thing. What manner of request? The person who sought a weapon before me is a close friend of mine. As Moran spoke, he gestured to the shore beyond the barrier, pointing out Shimei. He was denied just now, so I'm thinking If I grant exalted God's wish, then would the exalted God grant me a wish in return and give him a weapon? Is that all? Something like that is nothing to me. Guqin the Exalted laughed. He flicked his hand, and the ancient barrier covering the sky swiftly disappeared. This is a very simple matter. Let all three of them come then. If any weapon catches their eye, it's as good as theirs. Moran was delighted by this unexpected turn of events. He'd never thought that he would so effortlessly come across a way to solve the issue with which he had been wrestling. He was more excited at the possibility of Shimei receiving. I kind of want to talk about that for a moment, but hi. But let me just finish this because we're almost at the end of the chapter. He quickly agreed to the exalted Guqin's invitation and brought the others over. As he relayed what was going on, Shimei and Shumeng's eyes grew larger and larger, and even Chuaning reacted slightly. I love it. Guqin the Exalted watched from the side, but as if he'd realized something, he let out a and stared at Chuaning. You? Ooh, that sounds juicy. That sounds like there's gossip there. I need to get to it. But before we do, what was it that I wanted to talk about? Okay, so I'm wondering if the reason why Chuaning is so why Moran is so focused on Chuaning. Why am I messing up the names now? Okay, I'm wondering if the reason why Moran is so focused on Shimei getting a weapon is because he feels that if he has a weapon, he might be safer in the future. Like Moran will have to worry about him less. I'm not sure. Yeah, unfortunately, it does seem to be lagging quite a bit. I'm not sure why. Sometimes the internet is just worse than other times. Just let me know, is the lag more the visual or is the audio also glitching? Because if it is the audio glitching as well, then I really need to focus on fixing it. If it's just the visual, then I'm not as bothered because I feel like mostly it's more auditory experience. But yeah, let me know. I quickly want to go grab some coffee. So I think maybe, I know we're early, but I think maybe I'll take my 10-minute break now and then hopefully give the internet a little bit of time to fix itself. And then we can just like power through the last like hour and 15 minutes or something after that, because we are now also at the end of a chapter. So I feel like that just would work the best. Are you guys okay with that? Because I can also see that it seems like there's quite a big lag between me talking and it showing up on the side for me. So that's probably also a side effect of the lag. I'm not sure, or like not the lag, but of the bad internet at the moment. Let me just see. And suddenly the stream seems fine. I don't know. Oh, the audio too. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. Okay. But yeah. Are you guys okay with me taking my 10-minute break right now? So we'll come back like 5-2 instead of waiting until 10 past. Oh, sorry, not until 10 past, but like instead of the on the hour till 10 past, like usual. It does seem like the internet is more stable now on my side as well, which, thank goodness. Oh, goodness. Okay. Okay, I'm quickly gonna take my break. I'm not seeing. Let me see. Okay. Okay, then I shall quickly take my break now. I will see you guys in 10 minutes. Okay, we are back. Let me just see where we're at here. Okay, cool. Now that we are back, let me just, I hope the audio is, or not the audio, like the lag isn't going to be as much of a problem now. So, okay, let me just see. We are... Where are we? Chapter 38. This venerable one... Okay, this chapter title does not make sense, but I'm gonna read it as it's written here. This venerable one, 20,000 leagues under the sea. I feel like there should be a comma or something there, but anyway. Okay, we are on page 398. I'm just trying to think where we left off. I just want to make sure that we actually get the right amount of pages done for today. So we might go a little bit over time, just to reach the correct page count, if you guys don't mind. So we started... I have been reading really slow today. We've only done like 13 pages. Sorry about that. I actually thought I was doing okay, but apparently not. Okay, let us get started. Chuaning's indifference extended even to gods and mortals. Does the exalted god recognize me? He asked mildly. How could I not? Guochen smiled as he, in his refined manner. Many years ago, when you came to Jinqing Lake in search of a weapon, the depth and purity of your spiritual energy was such that I almost couldn't resist coming out to see you. So how is it? Is the weapon to your liking? Is this man flirting with Chuaning? If so, I am immediately in need of like a jealous Moran as retaliation. Which weapon is the exalted god referring to? Ah, Guochen startled slightly, then said with a smile, How absent-minded of me, to forget that I gave you two. No matter, said Chuaning. Tianwen works very well. Tianwen? The willow vine one. Oh, I see. Guochen smiled. So you named it Tianwen? And what about the other one? What's that one called? Zhuge, answered Chuaning. And how is Zhuge? It has a chilling temperament. I rarely use it. That I feel like says quite a lot if even Chuaning feels that his one weapon has a chilling temperament. Damn, okay. What a shame, Guochen sighed. Done chatting, he turned around. Wang Yue, I'll be taking them down below. It's not good for you to be up here above water where the spiritual energy is so thin. You should head back down soon too. The old dragon nodded, as it dove back into the lake, scales glittering. Meanwhile, Chuaning busied himself with casting water-repelling charms onto his three students. Guochen the Exalted watched him with interest, thinking, Such a level of proficiency is rare amongst cultivators. I wonder who his teacher is. Ooh, are we getting like a little bit of mystery regarding his teacher? That would be interesting. But Chuaning had an aloof air that didn't welcome small talk, and Guochen the Exalted knew better than to pry. Once all the preparations had been made, the group waded into the freezing waters of Jinqing Lake together. Owing to the charm, they moved unhindered in water as if on land. As they approached the depth, a boundless underwater world slowly came into view. Okay, so they can just like, because of the charm that Chuaning casts, they can just breathe underwater, it seems. That is epic. Can I have that? The bottom of the lake was covered in fine white sand. Aquatic plants drifted gently in the flow, and row upon row of finely detailed buildings lined the crisscrossing paths. All manner of monsters and beasts came and went on the streets and in the alleys. In this place, even creatures that couldn't normally coexist lived in harmony. Jincheng Lake has a plentiful spiritual energy and can thus be said to be a kind of paradise, said Guochen. The creatures who make their homes here stay for generations without even leaving. So many of their customs are quite a bit different from what you might expect to encounter in the mortal realm. You're welcome to look around if you wish. That is so cool. I love that little detail. As he spoke, a snow-white rabbit spirit with scarlet eyes rode past on a tiger. The rabbit was dressed in a white robe, all pomp and poise, with an arrogant look as it ceaselessly berated the tiger to go faster. The tiger, on the other hand, was meek and obedient, without so much of a hint of dignity. I'm not sure what to make of that, because it could either be like a little Easter egg of one, like referencing one of the other books of hers, theirs that I haven't read yet, or it could potentially be symbolism for the dynamic between Chuaning and Moran, simply because of the reference to the purple eyes. Was it purple eyes, I think? Oh no, sorry, scarlet eyes. My bad. Okay, but yeah, so that it could be symbolism for that, or I could just be overthinking it. That is always completely possible. Okay, before we continue, can we just again appreciate the art? I feel like we're really being spoiled with the amount of art that we received in just 2 chapters time, but this is so beautiful. I cannot deal. And they look so young here as well. Ooh, and are we getting something like a mermaid as well? Not sure. The group watched, speechless. Gretchen the Exalted led them along the main path. Countless shops crowded both sides of the street, and all kinds of creatures passed them by. Soon enough they arrived at the center of the city. Even more demons were gathered there, making for quite a strange sight. Jincheng Lake rarely has contact with the outside world, but you can barter for nearly anything you need here. Legend has it that Jincheng Lake was formed from your blood, said Shumeng. Wouldn't that make you the master of this place? Then, since it's your spiritual energy that sustains everything here? I wouldn't go that far. Gretchen smiled a little. Besides, that's all in the past. I left the realm of the gods long ago, and my spiritual strength is nothing like what it used to be. Thinking back on those heaven and earth-shattering events now, they seem almost like they happened in a dream. How are any of them related to my current self? These days... Oh, sorry, Swordsmith. He showed them around the city center as he spoke. The creatures at the bottom of the lake, having lived with Gochen the Exalted all this time, seemed to have forgotten his status as a founding god. They didn't react much even when he walked by them, busy as they were with minding their own business and peddling their wares. Fish blood mantu, freshly made. Skin of shwaran snake, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, sorry. Premium clothing materials, only 3 feet left. Once it's all gone, you'll have to wait for my next shedding. Ooh, that I can't decide if that's interesting or weird. Selling squid ink, brow filler made with fresh ink, spat just this morning by yours truly. It'd be wonderful for your eyebrows. Hey, wait, miss, don't leave. The market was inundated with the sounds of various creatures hawking their wares, and the unusual sight was no less worthy of marvel. A headless ghost sat by its stall, selling combs and makeup. Oh, the irony, I love that. It held a comb between two fingers with long scarlet painted nails as it brushed the hair on its own still bleeding head. Oh! Which rested on its knees. High quality bone combs, it called in a soft voice. Take one home with you today. Shemeng's eyes were wide as he glanced left and right. He saw an apothecary to the side, staffed by merfolk that sold all kinds of medicinal herbs that he'd never seen before. He was just about to go over and see if he could bring some home for his mother, when an ear-piercingly shrill voice rang out from behind him. Make way, let me through. Shemeng's foot froze mid-step, but when he turned to look, there was no one there. Gurchin smiled. Look carefully. Look under your foot. Sure enough, Shemeng squinted and spied a pile of tiny rocks moving on its own way. Well, that's new, he mumbled. Even rocks can walk here. Is this a rock spirit or something? Fuban. Chuaning corrected. Fubar? Chuaning shot him a mild look. It's the one thing for Moran. Oh my word. It's one thing for Moran not to pay attention in class, but you two. Shemeng was the sort to dive headlong into the practice of martial arts with his whole being, while paying absolutely no heed whatsoever to things like literature and history. In fear of his Shizun's imposing aura, he sat straight and proper during Chuaning's lectures, but everything went in one ear and out the other. His entire face burned at having been caught in the act by the same Shizun. Moran put his hands together, laughing. Shizun isn't being fair to me. I totally listen in the lectures. Sure you do. Shemeng wasn't about to back down. Oh yeah? Go on and explain it then. A Fuban is a type of bug that's exceptionally greedy by nature. It tries to gather up all the pretty rocks it sees, and it usually ends up crushed to death underneath that pile. Moran looked expectantly at Chuaning with a grin on his face. Shizun, am I right? Chuaning nodded. The Fuban has gone extinct in the outside world. I didn't expect to see one here. This one just lucked out, Gurchin explained with a smile. It's only still alive thanks to the local apothecary. Watch, here he comes. They observed the Fuban trudging to the steps of the apothecary with great effort, where it yelled, I can't take it anymore! Hurry up and save me, doctor! A turquoise sea dragon swiftly swam forward. He was clearly used to handling the situation, and he smiled leisurely as he took out a small porcelain bottle. He poured a golden red medicinal potion on the Fuban, like this was the most normal occurrence. Hello, foolish old man. Good harvest today? That's interesting. I don't know what to make of that. The so-called foolish old man huffed, tone lazy, while it enjoyed the medicinal bath. Not too bad, not too bad. 100 more tomorrow, and I'll have 485,617 rocks at home. I can't even comprehend that amount. But Moran and Chuaning were at a loss for words. That's quite a hoard, mumbled Shimei. The dragon finished pouring the medicine. Remember to come earlier tomorrow. Any later and even the strengthening dew won't save you. Yeah, got it. I'll come earlier, the Fuban replied half-heartedly. Then a pale yellow rock in the corner caught its eye, and it started hollering again. Hey, Lil, I'll meet Dr. Dragon. Might I please trouble you to put this pretty rock over there on my back? That way I'll just have a 400 million 8 85,618 rocks tomorrow. Shemaine couldn't resist walking over. What do you need so many rocks for? He asked. Are you building a house? What the? The one shrill, conceited voice came from under the pile of rocks. A human? Ayo, I haven't had to look at one of those for ages. How is it any of your business why I'm gathering rocks? Of course it's not for building a house. I'm not that bored. Oh no. I don't know why, but I got the distinct impression it's like someone asking like, "Oh, are you, are you mowing the lawn?" No, no, no. I wouldn't mow the lawn. I'm just counting the grass. I'm not that bored. I don't know why that image came up in my head. I'm sorry. Shimei was also curious. What for then, if not that? To count, of course, the band said self-righteously. Okay. The group was rendered totally speechless. In any case, after strolling around for a while, Gochen took them back to his residence. But you're already counting them, though. Okay, anyway. In a corner of the street, they came upon an enormous seashell that stood like a folding screen against the outside world. Behind it lay a large courtyard divided into 6 magnificent and expansive sections. Halls and corridors led to side wings and flower gardens, and bead curtains made of pearls and kelp swayed peacefully in the water. Some of the side rooms were dark, while others were lit by candlelight and faint, barely audible notes of konghua strings and shun drifted from within. Just like in the apothecary, all the servants of the god's residence were merfolk. Some kept their dragon tails, while others had transformed their tails into legs, preferring to walk instead. However, they didn't seem to like shoes much. All of them were barefoot. I love that. That's like small details that aren't really necessary to the world building, but somehow it really adds to it because it's so small that it seems inconsequential. Um, and like, it obviously took a little bit of thought to think to even put that in. Okay. Upon seeing the confusion on their faces, Gretchen smiled. I live with my good friend, Wang Yue, who was once the crown prince of the eastern seas, he explained airily. These are the servants he brought with him when he took up residence here. But that's the same name as the dragon, though, so is he the dragon? Or did he name the dragon after himself? Wang Yu was the name of that old dragon. Moran was rather fond of the black dragon since he had acquired his holy weapon from it in his previous lifetime. Where is he, anyway? He couldn't help but ask, smiling. He probably assumed a different form down here, right? He's so ginormous, I doubt he'd be able to fit in this place otherwise. Guchen nodded. He said cheerily. But he gets tired easily in his old age. He's probably retired early after having gone above water. If you want to see him again, you'll have to wait for him to wake up. Just then, a merman with long brown hair floated over and bowed deeply to Guchen. Exalted God, welcome home, he said in a soft, graceful voice. Wang Yue Daizhang. What? Sorry. Wang Yue Dianxia, there we go, told the humble servant everything. Would it please the exalted God to take his guests to the arsenal of holy weapons forthwith? Gretchen didn't answer at first. Instead, he looked politely to his guests first, then only nodded when he confirmed that they were amenable. Yes, very well. Please have the kitchens prepare food and wine. We shall dine when we return from the arsenal. They passed through the courtyards to the deepest section of the seashell. In the center of the courtyard stood a massive weeping willow that towered towards the skies. An underground weeping willow? That sounds so cool. The willow the willow must have been a different species from those in the world above the lake, as the trunk was so thick that it would have taken 10 adult men standing hand in hand to wrap around it. Its bark was ancient and twisted, and thousands of willow vines hung from it like an emerald curtain. Whoa! How old is this tree? Shumeng asked hoarsely. I haven't kept count, but at least 100,000 years old. Gurchen replied. What kind of tree lives that long? Shumeng asked, startled. Trees naturally live longer than humans, and this one in particular has been nourished by the spiritual energy of Jincheng Lake, so it's not really that unexpected. Anyway, please follow closely. The entrance to the arsenal is in the hollow of the tree. Gurchen paused and looked at Shumeng. Please don't touch the branches. The tree has cultivated into a spirit and can feel pain. Oh damn, shame. But his words came a little too late. Shumeng had already plucked a leaf. I didn't even think of that. Why would you do that? Shumeng yelped. That was not a good but anyway. At the same time, a faint groan reverberated through the empty air, as if a raspy voice was sighing softly. Ow. Shumeng paled as if struck by lightning and hurriedly flung the leaf away. What? Why is there blood? Sure enough, a stream of blood trickled from the branch where the leaf had been broken off. The leaf that had been thrown aside withered and convulsed on the ground like a living thing before gradually growing still, curling up and rapidly withering away. As I said, it's a spirit, Gurchen said helplessly. Why would the young Gongzi... Yeah, that is a good question. He shook his head and walked up to examine the broken branch, where he used his spiritual energy to soothe the willow and stop its bleeding. Shumeng, come here, said Chuaning. Don't touch anything else. Yes, Shizun. Knowing he had messed up, Shumeng walked over obediently with his head hung low. Fortunately, this incident wasn't too major. Chuaning apologized to Gurchen the Exalted, who, with all the magnanimity expected of a founding god, only smiled. The young Gongzi is truly agile and swift. That is a kind way to word that. Shumeng didn't say a word, his face bright red as he followed behind Chuaning with his head hung low. They passed through the curtain of lush branches and arrived at the trunk itself. Up close, the willow was even more overwhelmingly colossal than it had seemed from a distance. The initial approximation of 10 men was possibly a vast underestimation of its size. There was a hollow in the trunk of the willow. Rather, it would have been more accurate to call it a huge arched gateway, wide enough for 3 brawny men to pass through at the same time. Ooh, that sounds cool. The hollow was blocked by numerous complicated barriers, dispelled one by one before turning to say with a smile, the holy weapon arsenal is right inside. It's kind of small and a little messy, so sorry for the inconvenience. Why does it seem like he and Chuaning would actually get along very well? Moran was quite curious and immediately moved to follow behind Gurchen. Sorry about that. Wow, that's so loud. Okay. But Chuaning held him back as if by reflex. Don't rush, he said mildly. But he went in himself. Moran had long since grown used to Chuaning doing his sort of thing. In his previous lifetime, whenever the 4 of them had gone on missions to subdue demons, Chuaning had always walked at the vanguard. Back then, Moran had thought that his Shizun was impatient and arrogant, and that he didn't want to be outdone by those younger than him. But having been reborn, the Moran of the present saw things somewhat differently. As he watched Chuaning's white robes disappear into the darkness of the tree's hollow, a thread of hesitation surfaced in his heart. Was this person really rushing to be in front because he was impatient and arrogant. No, he is not. He is doing it because he cares, and you already sort of know that, I think. Okay. We are at chapter 39. I just quickly want to grab another sip of coffee before we continue. So we have to do at least 33 pages today, but I'm hoping to maybe do a little bit more. Chapter 39, This Venerable One's New Weapon. Within the three... Sorry. Wow, what a fantastic way to start. Within the tree's hollow lay a narrow passage. They made their way along a flight of smooth stone steps, the slippery sensation underfoot seeming almost to travel from the soles of their feet to the depths of their hearts. At the end of the passage, a bright light awaited. The exalted Guchen's kind of small and a little messy arsenal of holy weapons turned out to be of a totally different size than they had expected when they looked at it from the outside. The ancient tree was enormous, but its interior was even more expansive. It seemed to encompass the heavens above and swallow the earth below. Towering shelves lined the arsenal, and were packed with tens of thousands of weapons proudly on display. When they looked up, they couldn't even see the ceiling, only rows upon rows of racks filled with magnificent weapons. It made for a vision of boundless grandeur and untold splendor. And in the center of the arsenal sat a crucible. Waves of blistering heat came off of the red-hot metal within it, and several unfinished weapons rested inside. Each and every weapon made by Guchen the Exalted far surpassed the likes of the legendary weapon Zhejian and Qinchuang. Zhejian? Like, is it supposed to refer to another one? Or is it referring to... I doubt it's referring to Jiang Cheng's, but it's that's where my brain immediately went, sorry. Where a normal weapon would have been marred by the intense searing heat, the blades and tips of these weapons only glistened all the more, radiant and resplendent. Even more wondrous were the various weapon parts soaring through the air on their own, moved by the ancient tree's spell arrays. These tiny decorative pieces and ornamental jewels danced overhead like so, occasionally colliding to send sparks flying and fill the air with a delightful tinkle. That sounds weird. Guchen looked back with a smile. It's a little cramped in here, huh? Thought Chumei. Cramped? Then what do you think is spacious? Thought Chumei. Am I allowed to say this frickin' man? I don't know how to translate that into something that's not a curse, thought Moran. Chuaning remained impassive. Guchen the Exalted told Shumeng and Shimei to look around and pick weapons, and that they were welcome to take whichever ones struck their fancy. Meanwhile, Guchen the Exalted was especially interested in Moran, and so he had him try weapon after weapon. However, he found them all wanting. Feng Ming Jiao Wei, not the least bit discouraged, Guchen handed over yet another weapon, the 14th so far. Try this one. I don't know how to play, said Moran. No matter, just give it a strum. The Guchen was smooth and glossy on the front and scorched black on the back. Moran plucked it a couple of times as instructed, but the strings unexpectedly began to vibrate, resonating with a shrill tone. Guchen instantly tossed Feng Ming aside, where a spell carried the Guchen back to its stand. and exchanged it for a jade pupa. Let's skip this one, said Moran. The pupa was an instrument much too feminine for a man like him. Oh, goodness. Something like that was better suited for those pretty boys at Kunlun Tashu Palace. But Gurchin insisted, try it. Fine. Moran had no choice but to give in and take the preferred pupa. His grievance ran a little too strong, and after only a couple of plucks, the string snapped under his hand. Oh my word! Gurchin stared at the broken string and after a long moment said, "Do you know what that string is made of? You're not going to make me pay for it, are you?" Moran asked. Oh my word. The Wushan goddess's white hair, Gurchin muttered. It is of the spiritual essence of earth, impervious to sword and fire alike, but you... Moran glanced backward, alarmed. Shizun, I don't have money to pay for it. Of course, that's what he would be worried about, not about the fact that he just broke a spiritual weapon that should not have been that easily broken. Oh my word. Chuaning remained silent. Gurchin the Exalted twirled the string between his fingers, mumbling to himself. The earth element is naturally weak to the wood element. For you to be able to destroy part of the spiritual essence of earth, could it be that a weapon suitable for you must be made of the wood element? What? But it couldn't be. For some reason, Gurchin shot a glance at Chuaning. Chuaning noticed his glance. What couldn't be? Instead of answering, Gurchin the Exalted lifted his hand and waved, summoning a ceramic shin. He blew into it, and as the sound slowly faded, the space above them was split open by a blood-red summoning array. Jibai here? Come here. Moran's head snapped upwards. Shimeng and Shimei heard the commotion and also came over. They watched as air swirled about Gurchin's fingertips with his power, rotating the intricate array above. From it emerged a fox bird with fluffy, luxurious tails, accompanied by a splendid light and a shower of golden, glittering silver. The fox spirit circled the air and floated leisurely down to land in front of Moran. The fox spirit was quite pretty. Up close, he turned out to be a male fox spirit, with a dot of red between his eyebrows and a pair of peach blossom eyes that were slightly lifted and delicately expressive. He was draped in an ornate and held a box of golden brocade in his hands. Glancing at Gurchin, he smiled. Exalted God? You must know what I called you for, yes? Said Gurchin. This humble one knows. And what do you think? Jibayu smiled. Not bad. It's worth a try. The two went back and forth with each other, paying no mind at all to the 4 other individuals present. 4? Who's the other one? Did I miss it? Like, it's Chuaning Moran. Oh, okay. Yes, I did. Sorry, my bad. I don't know why I think I just miscounted Shumeng for a moment there. Poor Shumeng. Moran couldn't resist asking, what exactly are you talking about? This young Xianjun is already getting impatient? Jibayu asked with a smile. Actually, it's really quite interesting. I felt your spiritual energy before I appeared and thought for sure you would be a white-haired old man. I'm surprised you're actually a handsome young thing. Moran had no words. Jibayu, Gurchin the Exalted said. The matter at hand? All right. I was just having a bit of fun. Jibayu's eyes narrowed, his fluffy tails swishing. What was the matter at hand again? Don't glare at me, Xiaoguo. As for the thing It really is a long story. Then could you please make the long story short? Moran asked with a smile. Yep, yep. If you want the short version instead, it's actually super short. Oh my word, dude. Okay. Jibayers responded, also with a smile. Using spiritual energy, he floated the brocade box into his hands over to Moran. Here, take it. That was indeed super short. Moran took the brocade box to weigh in his hand and turned it over to examine. The box was scintillating gold and shrouded in a luminous gleam. Okay. But it provided no hint as to what the manner of holy weapon lay inside. Moreover, the box had neither seam nor crack. Its only decoration was a pair of koi fish on top, one black and one white, each holding the tail of the other in its mouth to form the yin-yang symbol. How does it open? The opening method will have to remain between the two of us, said Jibayue. No one else can know. Are you trying to say that we should excuse ourselves? Shumeng asked. That won't be necessary. I'll just borrow the young master for a minute, Jibayue replied, with a smile as he waved a hand. Moran's sight suddenly darkened, and he found himself alone with Jibayue in a small, secret chamber. No need to be nervous, young Xianjun. I just teleported us. The box holding that weapon is a magic artifact of my secret and exclusive design. That's why I couldn't tell you how to open it in front of everyone else. I hope you understand. This is so interesting. Moran smiled. It's fine, but just what is this weapon to warrant being held in such a box? That I cannot tell you, Jibayue said. Holy weapons have their own temperaments. This one in particular doesn't like to let its form be known so easily. If you offend it, it will refuse to recognize you as its master, even if you do manage to open the box. Why do I feel like that'd be good practice for him in learning how to manage Chuaning without actually hurting poor Chuaning's feelings? Moran was speechless for a moment and could only force a smile. What kind of weapon even? Such a strange temper. Fine, fine. Tell me then, how do I open the box? Upon realizing that he wasn't going to force the issue, Jibayue found he quite approved of Moran. He put his hands together with a laugh. Since you're so straightforward, I won't beat around the bush either. This box is called yearning. As you see, it's completely seamless. In order for it to open, 2 conditions must be met. And the conditions are? Asked Moran. Answered Jibayue. And so first, there is only one person in this world who can open yearning for you. This person will be extremely important in your life. You must love them dearly, and they must love you in return, as well as be wholly devoted to you. Moran smiled. I see. It's a strange condition for sure, but that doesn't seem too difficult. He was confident in his feelings for Shimei. But wait, so does that mean that he has to find the person before he can start using the weapon? That seems highly ineffective. How powerful must this weapon be for it to be worth the wait and the potential struggle? But at his words, the corner of Jibayue's lips curved faintly upward. How could it not be difficult? The heart of another has been a mystery to man since time immemorial. What you think is to be true might not necessarily be so. I've lingered in this world for a long time, and I've seen far too many people who lost sight of their hearts, or who knew not their own most beloved. In all these thousands of years, pitifully few have ever managed to open every yearning. Why is that? Moran asked, surprised. Even if you get the wrong person, can't you just try another? Even if you have to try every person you know, you'll definitely find the so-called most important person in your life eventually, right? That's where the second condition comes in, said Jibayu. Aside from you, only one other person can touch every yearning. In other words, you only have one chance. If you choose the wrong person, then it will remain close to you forever, and no one will ever be able to acquire the item within. How does that... Okay, I have questions, so we're just gonna put this aside for like 2 seconds so I can give my questions and then we can move on. I don't necessarily like want answers to the questions if it's spoiler related, but I just need to voice them. So how have other people already managed to open it if only one person can touch it? Or has he produced multiple of these weapons and it can only serve one master, but there's been a lot of times where it's just not worked out or something like that? Because that's confusing me a little bit. And then also that means that he would most likely give it to Shimei, which means that it's gonna fail, in which case he would be weaponless. So either he's not gonna take it, or for some reason he's gonna hold back from giving it to Shimei. That's a strange thought. Huh. Because I mean, why would they be going into so much detail over this weapon if this wasn't going to be the one that Moran ended up choosing? But also, why would Moran choose it if it was such a low, like, had such a low chance of success? That's so weird. Okay. I'm kind of hoping that Chuaning accidentally is the one that touches it first, and then magically it still opens, and that just sends Moran into a gay panic spiral. That would be hilarious. But I don't know if that's gonna happen. That doesn't seem likely. Moran laughed. No wonder you separated us from everyone else. It would certainly be hard to handle if the others heard this too. How awkward would it be if they knew that whomever I offered the box to is the one I like? He paused, playing with the brocade box in his hands. Anyway, the thing sure is interesting. So it's basically a lock with a one-use keyhole, and the wrong key will disable it for good. Of course, one chance to open it. What did you expect? Now, Jibayo glared at him. You mortals only have a few mere decades of life, yet you're so preoccupied with self-indulgence. Just how much fated love have you squandered away without realizing it? Love is not unlike that ever yearning. Sorry, love is not unlike this ever yearning. After all, you cannot simply take back a wrong choice. Ooh, that has layers. That has layers. That's gonna come back to haunt me by volume 4, I'm sure. Okay. Huh, worry not, oh great immortal fox. Others might have chosen wrong, but I've got this in the bag. Moran bowed to him and smiled. I won't squander this yearning. Jibayu shot him a look. Don't be so sure about that, young man, he said, voice soft and graceful. From what I can tell, you don't actually seem to know your fated person at all. Moran paused, smile frozen on his face. What do you mean by that? But the handsome immortal, the self-proclaimed believer in fated love, was unwilling to say any more. He only sighed softly. To yearn unwittingly breaks the willow branch. Ah. Moran wasn't a learned man, and he didn't understand the pedantic scholarly nonsense, but he also couldn't shake the feeling that the fox bird was subtly trying to remind him of something. Unfortunately, however hard he tried, he was too dumb to understand just what that something might be. He was just about to ask again, when Jibaye, knowing that his task was complete, smiled slightly and waved a hand to send Moran back into the world. That's interesting, because obviously we saw the willow branch breaking, but that was because of Moran, so it couldn't actually be a reference to the incident that just occurred. So what is it in reference to? Okay. The second Moran was gone, Jibaye froze and became stiff. Soon after, he shattered into pieces with a crash. All that remained was a single black chess piece that fell where he'd once stood. It was really too bad that Moran never saw this. Many things at the bottom of the lake might have turned out differently, had he only done so. Ooh, how this foreshadowing is, that gave me chills. But the fact that it's literally a chess piece that, like, was made to look like an actual creature. What is Guchen the Exalted planning? Maybe it's not him, but that was the person I would immediately assume it to be. That's so interesting. And why is he so hellbent on that box being the, or why is someone so hellbent on that box being the thing that Moran carries? Because right now, I could potentially see the I don't know, going off of my crazy theory about Shimei, if that were to happen, I could potentially see the trigger for that being an accident that reveals that Chuaning is his supposed fated one, which then might turn Shimei bitter. But again, it all, I don't know, we shall see. I don't think that's going to be the case, but it's an interesting thought. When Moran came to, he realized he was back at the arsenal of holy weapons where the other four were waiting for him, ever yearning in his hands. Guchen the Exalted smiled broadly at his return. The little fox is really too much. All the secrets of truth was already upon him, so either way, Moran didn't have time to ponder it too deeply. He smiled. Yeah, it's easy. He walked up to Shimei very casually. The lock has such an interesting and clever design, you guys probably shouldn't figure it out even given a whole decade. Wanna try? As he said so, he offered the box to Shimei, once again very casually. The brocade box glimmered brilliantly in front of Shimei, its golden glow lighting up his gentle, elegant face. Shimei, why didn't you try first? Moran tried to act nonchalant, but his heart had tied itself into knots, and his palms wouldn't stop sweating. This was a gamble on his part, one that risked his chance at acquiring a holy weapon. But all right. He really ought to have been careful about something like this, but in fact he felt like he was being plenty careful. After all, hadn't he... After all, he had already died once. He could still not know who it was. Ugh. Sorry, why am I struggling so much now? How could he still not know who it was he cared for? It wasn't like he was dumb. Should I go and find out how many times dumb appears in the Kindle version of this? I don't think you want me to do that, Moran, so let's just not answer that question and move on. But yeah. Shimei hesitated a bit, but after that, he took the preferred box. Moran's heart leapt into his throat. He stared intently, but a long while passed, and nothing happened. Moran continued to stare dumbly. Shimei carefully cradled the box as he examined it, tracing the yin-yang koi fish with his fingers. There is no seam at all, he said, wondering aloud. I can't find a keyhole either. Why was there no reaction? Shimei was touching ever yearning. So why wasn't anything happening? Could it be? Ah, it had to be. The gloves. I really hope it is the gloves, but also not, because either way, I don't think it's gonna work. With that realization, Moran glanced at the deer hide gloves on Shimei's hands. He was just about to ask Shimei to take them off and try again when, without warning, a slender-fingered hand reached over and calmly took Ever Yearning. Moran cried out in anguish as if he'd been struck by lightning. Shizun! Chuaning nearly jumped and almost dropped the box, but his composed exterior was ingrained all the way down to his bones, so his inner turbulence wasn't the least bit visible to his face. Moran howled like a freshly bereaved. Sorry. Moran howled like the freshly bereaved. Shizun! Goosebumps sprang up across Shumeng's body. What are you wailing about? It's just a box. What's wrong with you? You're yelling like someone stole your wife or something. Yeah. I. Moran was genuinely about to pass out from anger, but he couldn't say the reason why. He could only cover his face and howl hopelessly. Oh, hell. Chuaning, why aren't you wearing gloves? Why, when you're so afraid of the cold? It's all ice and snow out there. We're all wearing gloves, so why are you the only one? Moran paused. Oh. Each of the disciples wore demon-repelling high-tongue flowers that had to be linked to Chuaning's spiritual energy via his palms. So Chuaning hadn't even bought himself a pair of gloves to start with. The reason why he wasn't wearing gloves was to protect them. But this whole time, Moran had never spared him so much as a single thought. It was only now, at the crucial moment, that he noticed that Chuaning, the one among the most afraid of the cold, had been freezing from the start. Moran wanted to cry, but tears never came. He lamented his bad luck for having let the holy weapon slip through his fingers just like that. His chest was unspeakably tight. Then, all of a sudden, as Chuaning's fingers brushed past the yin-yang fish, the pair of met and began to weave nimbly around the box. A beat of silence, and then, with two crisp clicks, the yin-yang koi came together and rose to protrude from the surface, becoming a pair of handles. Chuaning turned the handles, and Ever Yearning split in two to reveal a radiant object inside that emitted a golden glow. Moran was stunned. Jibayo's words rang in his ears. There's only one person in this world who can open Ever Yearning for you. This person will be extremely important in your life. You must love them dearly, and they must love you in return, as well as being wholly devoted to you. This person was Chuaning? How could it possibly be Chuaning? No way. Absolutely no way in hell. How could he love Chuaning? And how could Chuaning even like him? What a joke. This had to be a mistake. Something was wrong with the box. The box was definitely broken. Moran was still hung up on this as Chuaning removed the holy weapon from inside Ever Yearning, at which point something even more startling occurred. This time, Moran wasn't the only one who was shocked. The other three were as well. Even Chuaning's expression flickered. A glistening willow vine illuminated their faces, its transcendent light reflecting in their eyes. In the midst of everybody else's stupefied silence, Moran choked for quite a while, before finally spitting out, with much difficulty and even more disbelief, Tianwen? Guys, I'm broken. This is taking so many turns that I didn't expect. So does he also, did he also get a Tianwen? That's obviously not going to be named Tianwen, but so they have a matching pair, or is it because Chuaning no, but okay, I'm very confused. We're gonna see how this goes. Doesn't help me just like being confused and not reading further. Let me just quickly. Okay. It feels like we're flying through these. Oh my word. Chapter 40. This venerable one cannot believe this. What the hell? The weapon inside Ever Yearning was Tianwen, or rather, a gold willow vine indistinguishable from Tianwen. It was exactly the same in every aspect, from the patterns on the vine down to the way in which it was made. To yearn unwittingly breaks the willow branch. Of course. I didn't even think of that. Chuaning, face unreadable, handed the willow vine to Moran before calling forth Tianwen in his hand, light gathering in his palms as the weapon formed. The two weapons were a mirror image, not the slightest bit different. No one had anticipated anything like this. Even Moran couldn't believe his eyes. As someone who had been on the receiving end of Tianwen probably about 1,000 times in his last life, he never could have expected to be offered an identical weapon from Jincheng Lake. What exactly was going on? Everyone collectively turned their gazes towards Guchen the Exalted. Guchen the Exalted seemed to be surprised as well. So at this moment, there are, in fact, two spiritual essences of wood existing concurrently? What exactly is a spiritual essence of wood, anyway? Shumeng asked. Ah, it's like this, said Guchen. There are 5 elements in this world, as you all know. When a person they find themselves inherently aligning with one or two of those elements. The living person most innately resonates with a certain element can be said to be the spiritual essence of that element. For instance, the Wushan goddess was the spiritual essence of earth of her time. But generally speaking, there can only be one spiritual essence of any particular element in each generation, and there is at present already a spiritual essence of wood, to whom I gifted the first wood elemental weapon many years ago. I don't even know where to start with trying to unpack that. I don't feel like I understand enough of the novel's world building to even know what to make of it, but that sure is something, at the very least. His gaze landed on Chuaning as he spoke. When I forged the 5 supreme holy weapons, I originally planned to make only one of each element. Everything went as intended for 4 of the elements, but the wood element weapon broke in 2 within the forge. I recognized this as the will of the heavens, and so I made the 2 halves of the willow vine into 2 separate weapons. Even so, I was certain that these 2 weapons would never find owners at the same time. Therefore, I entrusted one to Jibayue and his brocade box as a precaution against any unscrupulous scheming. I never would have imagined. Me neither? Okay. Gretchen shook his head and was about to say more when lustrous red firelight burst forth from the willow vine in Moran's hand. Its golden radiance gradually changed into the scarlet of a raging inferno. Moran's thoughts were in utter disarray as he blurted out without thinking, "Ah, what the hell?" Chuaning tried to stop him, but it was too late, and so both Chuaning and Guchen the Exalted could only gaze at Moran with pity. Moran quickly realized the reason behind their looks as he remembered. a holy weapon first changed color to indicate its recognition of its owner. This was also a request for its new master to give it a name. Please tell me he did not just name his holy weapon what the hell? Unfortunately, it was too late. They watched helplessly as 3 characters written in exquisite and powerful calligraphy slowly appeared on the silver handle of the willow vine. Ah, Zhang here. What the hell? Oh my word. Okay. The holy weapon, what the hell? Moran was silent for a moment. Then he shrieked. Although Shimeng and Shimei didn't know much about the practices of naming holy weapons, they put 2 and 2 together easily enough. Shimeng doubled over in laughter, clutching his stomach with both hands and laughing so hard that he almost cried. Only you could manage a name like that. Good name. Shizun's Tianwen and you're what the hell? Oh my word, okay. Since Moran had received his holy weapon, Shumeng and Shimei also each picked out a weapon for themselves. Shumeng chose a long sword, and Shimei opted for a short flute. Neither of their weapons changed color, evidently not yet willing to submit to their new masters. But it was no matter. This was something they could figure out later. Oh, really? Is it? That's interesting. And thus, everyone returned to the seashell estate for an evening feast in quite a good mood. Guchen the Exalted had never brought morsels into the depths of Jincheng Lake before, and he generously invited them to stay the night before leaving. Their host spared no expense. The banquet tables were loaded for making. Everyone came out of the affair a bit tipsy. I love the way that's stated. Afterwards, Guchen had the chamberlain bring the guests to their rooms to retire for the night. The guest rooms were adjacent to the arsenal of holy weapons. As he looked at the massive tree, Moran thought of the Jianho that he had just received and couldn't help but call forth the willow vine to look it over. Tiern unwittingly breaks the willow branch. That is so interesting, and now you have to wonder who the person was that disguised themselves, or not disguised themselves, but disguised a literal pawn, as a fox. Like, because again, it still would make the most sense to me for it to be Guchen the Exalted, but he said it was a will of the heavens, so it's possible it might be someone else. Oh goodness, okay, it's basically time for me to stop, but let's just quickly at least finish this page. Just what did the fox spirit Zhang Jibaye know? Why had he said something like that, and what exactly had he meant by those words? Moran was a little drunk, and the alcohol in his system had muddled his thoughts, but it just made no sense to him. If ever yearning hadn't been broken, then how had Chuaning opened it? Of course, he didn't like Chuaning, and as for Chuaning being deeply in love with him, what a joke. As he thought about this, he looked back towards his Shizun. Unexpectedly, Chuaning was also looking at him. Their eyes met, and Moran's heart trembled slightly, as if it had been pricked by something sharp. It elicited a faint, sweet, sour kind of feeling in him. Without thinking, he beamed toothily at Chuaning, but the feeling lasted for only an instant before being overtaken by regret. He obviously disliked Chuaning, so why was it that sometimes when he looked at him, he felt so at peace, so warm? Chuaning, on the other hand, was as impassive as ever. Seeing that Moran had called out Zhang He, he thought for a moment before summoning Tianwen. Then he walked towards Moran. Jiang He seemed to have a bit of a temper. Sensing the approach of another strong wood element, it crackled with sparks of scarlet. Sparks of scarlet firelight, some splashing on Shumeng from time to time, as if in a show of aggressive competitiveness. In contrast, although Tianwen also seemed to have sensed the presence of another like itself, it had spent a great deal of time with Chuaning and taken on his mannerisms, and so, despite all being proudly combative, its golden light didn't stir into an agitated frenzy like Jianhe, but rather brightened gradually, as its master didn't disapprove. It calmly continued to brighten until it had reached a blinding brilliance. It almost seemed determined to show Jiang He the steady composure with which an exceptional weapon should greet battle. Oh my word! No. We know he wouldn't have come up with something better even if he had thought about it, because we know what he named the, years of his ruling. I think it's probably for the best that he named it by accident, because it probably would have been worse if he had thought about it. 2 holy weapons, originally one branch. One was fresh and inexperienced, while the other was seasoned by hundreds of battles. One flared with a red light, like an impatient and excitable youngster still wet behind the ears, while the other coursed with a golden radiance, like a proud and haughty master standing atop the highest peak. Chuaning glanced at the willow vine in his hand with a quiet noise of contemplation. Then his gaze, sheltered by thick, lowered lashes, turned to Jianhe. Moran? Shizun? It was a little embarrassing to say Jiang. I'm struggling to read that. I will have to check the pronunciation. Chuaning paused before eventually continuing. Take up your willow vine. Let's have a match. The mush in Moran's brain boiled and bubbled, but he couldn't make heads or tails of it. He pinched the bridge of his nose and forced a smile. Please don't joke like that, Shizun. Have mercy on me. I'll let you have the first 3 moves. I've never used a willow vine before. 10 moves. But, without wasting any more words, Chuaning flicked his wrist, and a flash of dazzling gold cleaved directly towards Moran, and that is where we're going to be stopping it for today. I think we are on page 426. I think we did enough pages for what I intended, I hope. If I'm not miscalculating, I think we did about 40. So I think that's good. And yeah, we only have 1 more weekend left of volume 1. Then I think I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from it until the start of May. We shall see. I'm not sure yet. We shall see. So I'm going to be attempting to finish the mangas that I started way back when, so that we can focus on specifically doing these ones. Do you guys want me, because I really am curious about the other book by Meatban that's coming out soon, the Remnants of Filth. Do you guys want me to get that so that we can intersperse reading that with reading this? Because I checked now what the release date is for volume 3, and it's only in September, so we're gonna run out of reading material if we stick only to the Husky and his white cat Shizun. So what are your guys' thoughts? Because yeah, I figured it might be good if we wait until the beginning of March to do volume 2, and then once we're done with volume 2 we could move over to Remnants of Filth volume 1, and then take it from there, because I'm not quite sure how long that will take, and I'm not sure what other novels I could potentially cover here. I mean, because there's so many options, but finding ones that you guys will enjoy. I did read part of Scum Villain Self-Saving System, but I haven't finished that. So if that's something you guys, because I am planning to like read it from the start again. So if that's maybe something you guys would like me to like read live, that I'd also be up for that. I'm not sure. But yeah, okay. I just went into my own little world there. So I'm gonna wait until the live catches up after I've said bye. Like we have to do these days. There is a long lag between the two, so sorry about that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. Or you can let me know in the chat if you catch this live still. But yeah, again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you have a good week further, and I shall see you guys again on Saturday. Probably around this time. Like I prefer this time slot that we have today versus kind of the slightly earlier time slot that we have been having in the past 2 Saturdays. But yeah, 再见。